That's how we do it out here. That's how we do it. Hey, bro, who got fucking shit? Who got knives? Who got fucking knives? And what that nigga tired?
So I have a word to America today. Black women are sick and tired of being sick and tired. We see what you think about us, that you believe it is acceptable to sexualize and attack us, that you
Most of these people standing behind me are survivors that were brutally attacked by their buyers. They're the ones that came to us and said, address the buyer situation. And we did that. The committee forced amendments on us, on my bill, forced amendments on my bill.
Under Joe Biden, we've seen the movement to defund the police, leaving communities like the one I grew up in devastated and ravaged by a wave of violent crime that we have not seen literally in 5 decades.
Actually, Senator, as you probably know, the latest stats on violent crime and on the murder rate, they're actually down this past year. But let me get back to my question.
Under Joe.
Good morning, y'all. So I watched Roland Martin's segment on the 100 Black Men annual conference, and I thought it was really good because they got to have a one-on-one with Vice President Kamala Harris. And one thing that I realized is mainstream media was not airing this conversation. There were tons of Black men who were there, young, middle-aged, elderly, there to see and hear for themselves what the Biden-Harris administration has been doing these past 4 years for Black men, as well as the Black community. So all of your favorite rappers or retired rappers or tired ass rappers who are out here spreading misinformation, talking out the side of their neck about how Biden hasn't done anything for Black people, these men got a chance to hear for themselves. And when Roland started talking to these men after that interview was over, they were honest about what they had seen and heard from Vice President Kamala Harris and what the Biden-Harris administration has done these past 4 years. I say all that to say, what is happening on the internet and what is happening off the internet is like night and day. There are people who are getting informed and making decisions to get out and vote. And the second largest voting bloc for Democrats, which is Black men, are confirming that what they have seen and heard will help them in the November election. They got to hear and see truth for themselves. These people who are not engaged, who are not going to congress.gov and reading, who are not going to whitehouse.gov and reading and paying attention to what is actually happening in politics, that are saying, oh, well, they're doing nothing for Black people. They're not actually paying attention to what's happening in politics. They're just talking shit because they can and they have a phone with a camera. I like the fact that Kamala Harris.
Those Black rappers also include the one and only Jay-Z, who showed up at Tom Brady's retirement or Hall of Fame ceremony to serenade him and perform, and nobody was watching the performance. He had all these other folks there who could care less that Jay-Z was on that stage. It was an embarrassment. But this is what you get when you start wearing that red hat. When you as black as me and you don that red hat. So Jay-Z is another one. You can add him to that list. Somebody had a list of prominent black people who are either supporting Trump, or prominent black men who are either supporting Trump or at least have in one way or another championed him. But anyway, that, welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known, as Power 96 been celebrating Juneteenth. It is the actual holiday, federal holiday today, and he's happy about that. um, but we have a lot of news this morning, a lot of news to talk about this morning, including the fact that the House of Representatives, a lot happened over the weekend. Beginning Friday, they passed a measure to automatically register men between the ages of 18 to 26 for selective service. The bill was part of a National Defense Authorization Act, which sets U.S. military and national security priorities over the next year. This fiscal year, a whopping $895.2 billion has been authorized in military spending, a $9 billion increase from last year. Really, really interesting, right? We'll talk about that this morning, because there's a faction that also want women to be involved in this draft as well, this military draft. We'll talk about that. It was a weekend of mass shootings, including a shooting at a Juneteenth event where apparently a white man did a drive-by at a Juneteenth event. There were mass shootings in Texas, Massachusetts, and Michigan. And excuse me, we've been talking about this young thug situation because it's only getting more and more wacky. Um, we're going to tell you that this RICO trial has continued to develop in strange, strange ways, although the latest viral moment is fortunately more bizarre than it is concerning. Um, Also, while America's concern continues to be about the war in the Middle East and the Ukraine Russian conflict, fire, fire is being used as a weapon in a civil war in Sudan. And there is not a peep from Congress, the Senate, or the White House as this genocide continues to take place over there in the Sudan. Very disappointed. Tony Awards last night will tell you what happened specifically. Alicia Keys' Hell's Kitchen. Alicia Keys, speaking of Jay-Z, they performed last night together. But that musical we'll talk about later. And you probably heard me talk about it before when I saw it. Was nominated for 13 awards. We'll tell you how many they walked away with. Um, got a bone to pick. First of all, so looked at the every Sunday, the White House sends out a schedule of what the president and the vice president will be doing this week. Um, they have their schedule. They'll be, in fact, they both will be hanging at Rehoboth Beach on Thursday. And the last thing on that schedule on Thursday is that they will be headed to Camp David afterwards. Now, I say that to say this: President Biden and his administration in this most critical time have shown a blatant disregard for the Black press of America. A 197-year-old institution, just a little bit older than Joe Biden himself, that has steadfastly championed the voice of Black America. In fact, the Black press is the one voice that still resonates with Black voters and the Black population as a whole today. This historic media entity comprises over 250 publishers and media company owners, and has been a cornerstone of African American discourse and advocacy. During Black Press Week this past March, These publishers were disappointed when President Biden failed to appear at a highly anticipated meet and greet at the White House. Undeterred by this slight, and that since taking office, Biden hasn't found time to interview with or address them, the leaders of the Black press extended a formal request for President Biden and Vice President Harris to address Black America at their annual convention in Baltimore that begins in earnest tomorrow. Biden's team assured them that he would participate in some capacity, providing a glimmer of hope that this administration might finally acknowledge the Black press's crucial role in Biden's political life. It was the Black press that mobilized voters, provided critical coverage, and highlighted issues central to the African American community, significantly contributing to Biden's victory in the 2020 election. However, any hope appears to have been dashed with the release of the president's and vice president's schedule today, which glaringly omits a trip to Baltimore. Now, Friday night, there are administration officials who will be in attendance at the gala, which we were anticipating. And now they haven't, the schedule doesn't seem to totally shut the door, but we have not heard yet since March any affirmative from the Biden Harris campaign. So the absence is not merely one of those. You might have heard this from Bob Bogle. You might have heard this, the Philadelphia Tribune publisher. You might have heard this from the Defender Network, um, Sonny Messiah Giles, back in 1992, as they lambasted Bill Clinton for not showing up in Baltimore, of all places, for the Black press. But this absence is not merely a scheduling oversight, but a profound statement of disregard, despite their repeated acknowledgement, publicly too, of the importance of the Black press. Biden and his campaign have consistently failed to allocate a meaningful portion of their multi-billion-dollar ad and marketing budget to this vital institution. Yes, the campaign has engaged in a small sponsorship of the upcoming conference, but empty promises of future investment have become a hollow refrain, underscoring a pattern of neglect that has not gone unnoticed by Black America. The looming specter of a Donald Trump victory in the upcoming election adds a dangerous urgency to this issue. Despite the obvious and immediate, clear and present danger that Trump poses to communities of color, he has managed to win over some misguided, misinformed African Americans, which is a testament to the general sense of disillusionment, I should say. Well, if Biden and his team do not recognize the critical importance of engaging with the Black press and by extension, Black America, they risk alienating the very voters who will decide the outcome of this election. As Bob Bogle, who was then the national chair, remarked in 1992 regarding another presidential candidate who snubbed the Black press, this affront, we take it personal. It is an insult to all of Black America, a slap in the face that we will not soon forget. It's a grave error on the part of the campaign that reveals a deeper disregard for the struggles and contributions of African Americans. Is the disdain that Biden and the schedule creators display. It is a stark reminder that individuals like Biden, an elderly, wealthy white male, will never feel the oppressive weight of a Trump administration as acutely as people of color will. The Black vote will once again be the deciding factor in the election. Yet Biden's administration appears oblivious to this reality, blinded by their disrespect for the Black press and the 250 plus Black owned businesses it represents. This monumental snub, and make no mistake, it is monumental, coupled with the continued failure to engage meaningfully with the Black press, is not just a missed opportunity, but as we said, it's a glaring act of disrespect. Black America is skeptical, Black America is angry, and rightfully so. Black America demands recognition, respect, and action, not just empty words. And Biden and his decision makers must urgently reassess their priorities and honor a commitment to the Black press of America, or they will face the consequences of their indifference at the ballot box. With that being said, well, Power 96 said he heard that Al Sharpton called out the Biden administration for not advertising with the Black press. He says he was shocked. I missed that, Power 96. That would actually surprise me. Well, I had a conversation with Al Sharpton not long ago, a few weeks ago on Amtrak, on Excella, and he did raise concerns that included that for sure. We had perhaps a 20-minute conversation, longest conversation he and I has ever had. So, which was really interesting. I thought how uh, his words surprised me. I mean, he was very, as you say, Power 96, even in that conversation, very supportive of the Black press, very supportive of Dr. Chavis and the mission of the Black press, recognizing that in a couple of years, it'll be the bicentennial of the Black press. Michelle Madison says if President Biden does not show up to the NMPA's conference, he will not get my vote, period. Wow. That's a very, very, very strong statement, Michelle. And now, on the other hand, the pastor of one of the country's largest churches, Donald Trump's spiritual advisor, has admitted to inappropriate sexual behavior with a woman who says he sexually assaulted her when she was just 12 years old. Cindy Clemshire uh, said that the pastor of Texas Gateway Church asked her to come into his room. Robert Morris is his name. When he stayed with her family during the holiday season in 1982. She was 12 years old and he was 20 at the time. She said Morris, molested her and then ordered her not to say anything about his behavior, quote, because it will ruin everything. The abuse continued for years before Clemshire confided in a close friend, prompting Morris's wife to find out and Morris to step down from the ministry, according to news reports. So, very interesting that Donald Trump, who a jury twice found responsible for sexually assaulting a woman, that Donald Trump, now a 34 times convicted felon, counts as his spiritual advisor, this Robert Morris, who apparently or allegedly sexually assaulted a minor. Yet, as we continue to say, he is the front runner to win the White House in November. And you got people from all over the world, other countries, shaking their heads. This is America. And oh, and by the way, as a fly disrupts my broadcast here, uh, there is a Twitter post by a lawyer named Qasim Rashid who breaks something very important down. He says that the House just passed an $895 billion Pentagon budget, yet 1 in 6 American kids are food insecure. He notes that Tesla, the board, approved a $56 billion payout, but then turned around and laid off 10,000 workers. Exxon, he notes, made a $28.5 billion profit, yet paid a 2.5% tax rate. He goes on to conclude that this is what class warfare against working people looks like. Just let that sink in, folks. Let that sink in. And to go along with that, so Donald Trump is on record many times. He wants to cut that rate, that billionaire tax rate even further. Now we are paying, everybody else that is paying in the region of 20 to 30%, and they are paying 2.5%. And I saw some folks, including a couple of black folks, post that Trump wants to get rid of income tax. And they're touting this as such a great thing. You better, better be careful what you wish for, and hmm, take heed to that. Be careful what you wish for. So the House of Representatives passed a measure to automatically register men aged 18 to 26 for selective service. Now, this bill has little chance in its current form to pass through the Senate. And certainly President Biden has said he's not going to sign it if it came to his desk. But that is only one form of it. Now, there's a growing number of Republicans who want, well, not just Republicans, but others, Democrats as well, who says what's good for the goose is literally good for the gander. They want this to include women. Now, the draft was first instituted just before or as World War One broke out. If you know a little history, and it was then dropped, and then reinstated for World War II, of course, and then dropped and reinstated again for Vietnam, and then Jimmy Carter, um, after he dropped it when he first became president in 1977, and then um, out of panic in 1980 when Russia invaded Afghanistan, reinstituted. Now the penalty, of course, for failure to register um, is 5 years in prison, $250,000 fine. But mostly most people who have failed to register and was found guilty of failing to register receive penalties such as loss of driver's license, loss of passport for a lifetime, and some other little civil penalties. But the selective service really is something that the Pentagon has pushed for, but a lot of people have said, listen, the American military has been all volunteer for decades, and it should stay that way. As Representative Chip Roy, a Republican, when he saw the bill, again with everything in the bill, when they talk about bills, folks, and whatever is the headline of the bill, which in this case is uh, we are making it the media making it the headline selective service part, the draft. But there are so many things in here that they threw in. For instance, those who are in the LGBTQ community in the military cannot get health care, cannot get certain uh, leave for gender based care. It's so wild stuff that's in this bill that is the primary reason why it's not going to get past the Democrat controlled Senate at this time. But again, um, a lot of these MAGA folks are saying, okay, if it doesn't get by now, wait till November. See, they're counting on a clean sweep in November. They're counting on retaining the House. They're counting on winning the Senate, which is very much a real possibility. And of course, winning the White House. So these are just some of the things, and we've talked, and we will continue to talk about Project 2025 as a major warning if all of that comes to pass. Power 96 says you do not want to draft it. Hard as heck to make service members serve during wartime. The stories that I can share of how some service members hid from war. Yeah, I know of some myself. This fly is at war with me right now in the studio here. Daniela Pierre says that what should be passed by the House is the automatic registration of men and women 18 to 26 as registered voters. And that is part of the bill. Daniela, very good call there. That is part of the bill that's what some were pushing for in this bill. that would be automatic registration for men and women ages 18 to 26. So we'll see the outcome. Certainly, this during this Congress is not going to pass the Senate. It's not. Um, they will have to kick this down the road until we see what happens in November and what the Congress looks like in January. At least two people are dead and multiple people are injured after a shooting at Old Settlers Park in Round Rock, Texas. Round Rock police said they received a call about a shooting at the Juneteenth festival just before 11 p.m. Saturday night. Officers were already working the event, which had been promoted by the city of Round Rock, and immediately began rendering aid to multiple victims. Round Rock police said two people died as a result of the shooting. They didn't give specific numbers about the number of injured, but at least two people have died. The Juneteenth festival concert was billed as a family-free event. It was scheduled from 5 to midnight, and according to several reports, a white male was seen driving up and opening fire on a majority black event at this Juneteenth festival. Meanwhile, the mass shootings over the weekend continued. Authorities in Massachusetts said a shooting left 7 people wounded, including two who remain in critical condition as of this morning. Police Chief Scott McNamara said that at about 1:55 a.m. Sunday, officers responded to 100 Limburg Avenue after multiple 911 callers reported a shooting in the Essex area. County District Attorney Paul Tucker said an 8-person uh, or 8 people suffered serious head injuries while fleeing the scene. McNamara said that the person appeared to suffer those um, injuries during one person seemed to suffer injuries during a fall while running. One of the victims was flown to an area hospital by a medical helicopter. 5 victims are in stable condition. 7 altogether were hospitalized. No arrests have been made. It continues the theme because a mass shooting wounded at least 9 people, including 2 children, at a splash pad in Oakland County, Michigan on Saturday. Police said the shooting happened also around 5 p.m. Saturday. The shooting was at the Brooklands Plaza splash pad at 1585 East Auburn Road in Rochester Hills. They said a man pulled up to the splash pad in a vehicle, pulled out a handgun, and also started shooting. Police said that it was a very crowded event. They recovered a 9mm handgun at the scene, where the gunman had fired at least 28 times and reloaded multiple times. He had 2 handguns. He fled the scene, eventually was located at a mobile home park in Shelby Township, where he reportedly took his own life. So this is interesting. We mentioned these mass shootings um, over the weekend because on Friday, the Supreme Court um, ruled against the Biden administration because the Biden administration wanted them to put an end to the sale of these, what they call these bump stocks or whatever, which makes any gun much more powerful than what it is. Um, so immediately after their ruling, you get multiple mass shootings. They don't care. They simply don't care. And that is the bottom line. Well, turning our attention back to Atlanta, Georgia, Fulton County, um, where there are going to be comedy shows. I'm sure already comics are doing stand-up bits about the Young Thug trial. I mean, and it's not a joke. The trial is not something that is a misdemeanor. We're talking about murder, racketeering, and everything else in this trial. But this trial continues to develop in strange ways Although this latest viral moment is much more bizarre. Little Woody, or Lil Woody, as they call him, recently was on the stand again. And while the prosecutor laid out some papers in front of him, he sniffed something in the air and began to cough. I wonder if we have that, Greer, on video. Um, this guy, Lil Woody, has been nothing short of a show within the show on this really crazy, crazy trial that really needs to end. Just declare a mistrial at this point. But he, Lil Woody, coughed, then told the prosecutor to get back, and then he continued to cough before refusing the bottle of water that she offered him. I think we have a video of this. I mean, it's just insane. It's absolutely Woody. Yes, Woody. Well, nonetheless, that went viral because folks was tweeting out and posting that the attorney smelled bad. Although some say, well, it's equally likely that Woody just didn't want to cough on her. Woody did say, "Get back, Daniela." And yes, Power 96 says Lil Woody is definitely 5 cans short of a 6-pack. Trump will have him on stage soon. Um, but it's far from the only notable moment to emerge from Lil Woody's time in court. His latest rant in court during his testimony saw him apparently confess to lying to police officers during questioning. And that followed a back and forth over whether or not he would testify. And a whole lot of these wild answers to questions. But literal answers. It's been hard for either side to crack down on the other, and the trial still has a lot of open ends and questionable procedural moments. We talked last week about the judge throwing the attorney in jail because really the judge really messed up. Um, but Woody, when it was revealed, that was last week when it was revealed that Woody would be compelled to testify or face jail time after his first appearance. It looked like he would opt for jail time, but in a surprise move, he decided to testify after all. And his time, as we said, has been grueling. At first, videos made the rounds online of his testimony where he appeared to be purposefully dragging out answers and taking questions exceedingly, literally. He fired his lawyer while he was on the stand. So this guy, I mean, wow. Okay, guess we got it here. Um, but him being on the stand has been, I mean, these. At one point, he had an intense rant where he confessed that he lied to the cops. He cut off the prosecutor in the middle of a question, and he did that to reveal that he had extensively lied in order to protect his own innocence. He said, and this and at one point, he appeared to say he killed somebody.
When you going to the police about Nuts murder?
I text her and told her that I was going to kill Thug when I get a chance. That's what you talking about?
No, but why did you text her that you were going to kill Thug when you get a chance?
Because I let a lot of people get in my ear.
And what did they get in your ear about? It's effect on the listener, Your Honor. What did they get in your ear about?
A whole lot of stuff. People coming to me every 5 minutes with something about not just Thug. It was just a lot of people, but mainly most people was coming to me about Thug.
He He had said that people was coming to him about Young Thug and said they had to get rid of him. And the lawyer asked him why did they have to get rid of him. I don't know. I can't answer that. And he admitted that at one point he wanted to get rid of Young Thug because of stuff people were saying. And she asked him, "Well, what was the stuff they were saying?" He said, "I don't know." Austin says Woody is 1,500 miles north of illiterate. And Power 96 says if SNL had more than 3 black people
I
working for
don't
them,
know. I don't
this would be a
remember.
great
I
skit.
don't know what. No, I guess I don't.
A man who goes by the nickname Lil Woody might be one of the most entertaining witnesses we've seen so far in the RICO trial against rapper Young Thug out in Atlanta. And that's saying something. We have some of the top moments from Kenneth Copeland's testimony over the last few days. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous. It's a scream, a total scream. Lil Woody just was acting out. Or was he acting?
How old are you?
Grown.
Okay, what does grown mean?
I'm an adult.
Okay. And when you say you're an adult, what number in years are you?
I plead the fifth.
Mr. Copeland, given the fact that you have invoked your Fifth Amendment privilege, but the state has already given you immunity under 24-5-507, this court holds you in willful contempt, and we'll see you on Monday. And we'll see if we can get some more testimony at that point in time. Take him into custody.
Yep, Copeland was held in contempt of court and he was taken to the Fulton County Jail for the weekend. He was back on that Monday, and this time he at least answered questions, but getting the answers that the prosecution wanted was a little more difficult. I mean, even on basic questions like, how old are you, or where did you go to school, proved to be complicated.
And when you were younger, did you go to school?
Yes.
Where did you attend school?
I don't know. I went to a lot of different schools.
Okay, what are all the schools you went to?
I don't recall all of them.
Or just tell me some of them.
I only know one. Slater.
Slater? Is that elementary school or middle school?
Elementary.
Why you don't remember what middle school you went to? Did you go to middle school?
I think I stopped. I did.
How long did you go to? Did you finish middle school?
Relevance. Overruled.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. Did you go to high school at all?
Yeah.
All right.
By the way, let me give you some context here. According to the prosecution back in 2015, several of the YSL defendants were involved in the murder of Donovan Thomas, also known as Big Nut, an alleged rival gang member. Now, Shannon Stillwell and Diamante Kendrick.
You can't make this stuff up. It's incredible stuff. That trial is it's such a farce. And I don't know if the guy is guilty or innocent or whatever, if Young Thug is guilty or not. But what I do know is that they are going to make a movie or something about that. As Power 96 said, SNL, if they have more than 3 black people working for them, because Keenan can't do everything, they would probably be all over this too. But wow, unreal. And speaking of trials, it's the anniversary of the Bronco chase. I saw the tweet this morning, and somebody said that there's a theory now that OJ he drove a different Bronco to the crime scene, but nonetheless, it's the anniversary of the Bronco chase. Make of it what you will. And speaking of anniversaries, a week from tomorrow, and again, we're gonna um, do something pretty substantial on the 15 years after the death of the king of pop, Michael Jackson. We'll do next week. Um, Tomorrow, a week from tomorrow. 15 years later, how time flies. Um, so we talk a lot about the war in Ukraine, of course, the Israel assault in Gaza, but hundreds of towns and villages across the Sudan have been burned to the ground, and the fires, they're using fires that the folks have concluded are man-made. Satellite images and open source reporting show the result of that brutal civil war that has been raging in Northeast Africa for more than a year. A bit of fighting between the two forces that are rival generals has laid waste to much of the country. Thousands have been slaughtered, and 10 million people have been driven from their homes, which has created the world's largest displacement crisis, according to the United Nations Migration Agency. And as the fighting has spread, homes and aid camps have been burnt out by these fires that have been started intentionally. Um, One expert said, when we see reports of fighting coinciding with clusters of fire, it indicates that fire may be used as a weapon of war. More than 50 settlements have been burned repeatedly, suggesting intent and possible forced displacement. Um, this is something, again, we don't hear a whole lot about, um, but it's been happening. And this has been um, a genocide that's been going on for over a year. Um, a project in Sudan has documented more than 235 fires that have emerged or broke out in towns and villages across the country since the start of the war in April of 2023. Um, Outside officials have found that much of the violence was taking place in Darfur, Sudan's westernmost region. And the latest data shows the fire events moving closer and into El Fasher, the capital of Sudan's North Darfur state, and home to 1.5 million people, including many who have fled from other embattled parts of the country. It is also the last major city where the military has a presence and has become the focal point of the latest fighting between the war's combatants. Um, at least 15,000 people have been killed this year, according to a UN report, and that was issued more than a month ago. And that report at that time said around 18 million people are facing acute hunger. And separately, the International Organization for Migration said this week that 10 million people have been displaced within Sudan, although it noted that the tally included 2.8 million who were driven from their homes by multiple local conflicts before the war began. Uh, it's just, again, we are not being, not only are we being informed about what's going on there, but there seems to be no outrage. I mean, you heard the numbers. Um, and there's no outcry. Certainly, there's no protest. And now, just to put it all in perspective, now you heard the numbers. Now, Sudan has a population of 47 million, and you're talking um, millions and millions of people displaced and being driven out. Um, and yet, there's no outrage, no outcry, and as we said, no protests, and they're using fire. So they are uh gosh, j- just burning people to death. I mean, isn't there some sort of war crime situation here that it just makes little sense here? And again, nothing from Congress, nothing from from any senator, and nothing from the White House on this. Power 96 says you'll never hear about this genocide. Some black people are capping too hard for Gaza. Let that sink in. But we often Here, Black Americans particularly romanticize a lot about Africa. White people covered Africa. And here we have in this situation in Africa, a part of Africa, and there's no discernible outrage. There's no discernible care. Um, we talk about the hostages in Gaza. We talk about the Ukrainians, and all that is fine. But what about those innocent kids, women, and kids in Sudan? It's really disconcerting. Well, Hell's Kitchen was the first of the nominated musicals to get a performance last night at the 2024 Tony Awards, and the number featured Alicia Keys and the aforementioned Jay-Z reuniting to perform their hit song Empire State of Mind. But the semi-autobiographical, gosh, I can't talk this morning. Y'all know what I mean. The Alicia Keys is semi life story. It only tackles her age 17, but still, um, she composed the score and helped arrange the music and served as a producer. But they didn't win the top prize of Best Musical. They won 2 awards, despite going into the 2024 Tonys with the leading 13 nominations. Hell's Kitchen had been tied with Stereophonic as the most nominated production this year, but Stereophonic won 5 awards, including Best Play. Hell's Kitchen wins were in the categories of Best Actress, Malia Joy Moon, and Featured Actress Keisha Lewis in a musical. I mean, those were some outstanding performances. Um, the I think the whole cast certainly was deserving. I mean, I like plays. This, of course, was a musical, um, but it really, really was all that. And I think folks who haven't seen it should indeed see that Fubu shirt. I love the Fubu shirt so much. Seeing Fubu again when we were at the show, I had to go and surprise my wife and buy her one of those uh, orange Fubu shirts. I mean, it's just an amazing, amazing show, Hell's Kitchen. That folks, if you can get to Broadway, I would highly recommend you seeing it. The 2 wins, the well deserved best actress and best featured actress, Malia Joy Moon and Keisha Lewis. But I tell you what, everybody in that play, that musical, was on point and could have won last night. And certainly, I mean, I haven't seen much of the other um, plays and musicals, including Stereophonic, which won Best Musical. But I can't imagine any getting too much better than Hell's Kitchen. That was something else. I wasn't expecting much and got a whole lot. I was expecting, music and knowing my penchant for not really enjoying musicals. There was a couple of musicals I liked, and there was a musical called Memphis that was really good. Saw that way back in the early 2000s. Um, really enjoyed that. But this one, Alicia Keys did her thing and took notice. For the first time, I took notice of Alicia Keys. Is she something else there? Swiss beat. But anyway, we thought we'd end with all of this crazy, crazy, harsh news on some entertainment this Monday morning. Now we're going to Baltimore tomorrow. We'll be in Charm City starting tomorrow. Some event is going on with Mayor Scott. I say some event because just got a text about it. Was it yesterday? And that Greer and I will be attending. So we will be checking that out, and we'll be bringing you Let It Be Known all week from the city of Baltimore. Wow, going to Baltimore. Should be fun. Whether or not the president shows up Friday, well, y'all heard what we had to say about that. And he, his schedule makers, and his campaign, um, stop taking the Black press of America for granted. Stop trying to downplay or overlook us. It was good to hear that Roland Martin was uh, involved in the Kamala Harris discussion yesterday. I know he was one that the campaign certainly had, surprisingly, shockingly, hadn't really done any business with either. Um, I'm not sure if it's changed or not. Hopefully, it has, because you need somebody like Roland Martin, but just as much you need the Black press of America. Um, and keep fooling yourself if you think you don't, because that's the impression. The impression that some of us have gotten is that they believe that they can do without, and that has never worked. We have the receipts that it has not worked. So you got a couple of months to get it together, but the time really for them to have start doing some. And I keep seeing in my email, by the way, what they are spending on this, what they're spending on the campaign, the Biden Harris campaign. And it gets a little irritating when it's not us that they're spending. For instance, just this morning, first thing in the morning, 5:02 a.m., from Team Biden Harris, they say they're taking aim at convicted felon Donald Trump as part of a $50 million June ad campaign. The ad campaign is Character Matters. And it says that is part of the broader $50 million campaign for the month of June that includes historic, this is what they said, this is their words in this ad, historic investments into African American, Hispanic, and AAPI media. This came through at 5:02 a.m. It says this campaign includes historic seven-figure investments into reaching Black, Latino, and AANHPI voters, the largest investments to date. And so we will see if this Character Matters campaign ends up on Black Press USA, ends up on different Black owned and operated, not Black targeted, but Black owned and operated newspapers and media companies. There's 250 in the Black Press of America, the National Newspaper Publishers Association. So we will see. This came through at 5:02 a.m. Now, as they said earlier, this comes on the heels of their Promises Kept ad campaign, which was a radio ad that, in their words, underscore, and I'm reading from it, the promises made and kept by Biden and Harris for Black communities. So who are you talking to? 8 figures to tell people what you've done for Black and Brown. Why for Black communities? This said Black. So why wasn't that? Why wasn't we a part of that? We're the ones that are reaching Black folks. And it said radio. There's radio in NPA. I mean, Chris Bennett out in Seattle, Hiram Jackson in Michigan. There's radio. Sentinel has their hooks and radio out in Los Angeles, and we can go on and on. So we will see. We will see. This is I'm letting you folks know. This is a from the Biden Harris campaign. Character Matters is the name of the June ad campaign. Now it's funny. We already more than halfway through the month, and we are announcing this now that this is a June ad campaign. But it specifically says that African American, Hispanic, and AAPI media. Now, outside of the black press, the 250, that's a lot to choose from, 250 newspapers and media companies. There's Roland Martin, of course, and there's the Griot, black owned. Everything else, well, not black owned. So we'll see what happens. And again, we lead this morning with the fact that there will be administration officials there on Friday night. We will see if the head honcho himself will be there Friday night. We know we'll see David Youngblood there, so maybe some of you guys will come too. You can still do so. But here's what else you can do. Continue to tell your friends and family members and associates and workmates and even your enemies to subscribe to Let It Be Known's YouTube page at LIBK-news and tell folks about it and share it. And we'll see you from Baltimore tomorrow. Thanks for watching.